Hi there, I'm Anna with Waitress101.com, helping you get bigger tips and make more money as a server. And today I'm coming to you with a video about how to boost your tips, increase your confidence, and make more money before you even greet your first table. Okay, so we're going to talk about 5 things. And I want to start off with one of the most important things about working in any restaurant, and that's introducing yourself. Not to the table necessarily, because remember, these are 5 tips that are going to make you more money before you even greet your first table, but you need to introduce yourself to every single person that works in the restaurant with you. So all the other servers, the dishwashers, the cooks, the expos, the hostess, the managers. These are people that you're going to be working with on a regular basis. And to work in a restaurant, it requires teamwork. So you can't make any money without the cooks. You can't make any money without the dishwashers. Depending on how busy it is, you can't make money without the host or the expos. So these are people that are your coworkers, and you need to know their names. And to some of you, it might sound really basic, but I've been in several restaurants where, this one example, when I worked in New Hampshire, the woman was training me and she opened up the salad area and just yelled over her shoulder, "We need ranch!" And so because I was training, I was like, "Oh, who are you saying that to? Like, who's the person that's gonna get the ranch?" And she was like, "Oh, I don't know, those guys." Like, she didn't even know their names and she was training me. It blew my mind. I could not believe it. So the very first thing I do when I walk into a restaurant, or even if I've already been working there for a long time, anytime I see a new face, anybody new gets hired, I make it a mission to, obviously you notice, "Oh, I've never seen you here before." I walk right over to them and I smile, "Hi, I'm Anna." Then you can say, "Nice to meet you." If your hands aren't full, shaking their hand is a huge thing. But if you have your plates or whatever and you can't shake their hand, that's fine. But now you've had that basic introduction, so that benefits you because now you know this person's name. Try not to forget it. Even if you do forget it, you can go back up to them again at some point and just say, "What was your name again?" "Okay, and I'm Anna," just in case you forgot. "Okay, yeah, got it." Now, like, let's say you need something, and it's like, "Oh, hey, Joe, can you, do you know where I could find this or that, or, whatever." But you're also helping that new person feel more welcomed in the restaurant. It's really hard to be the new person. And I bet that they appreciate it more than you even know, that you took 2 seconds to just introduce yourself first. Show that you have a friendly demeanor, show that you're an approachable person. All of that is huge. And when you know all the names of your staff members, you feel empowered. You're not lurking around in the shadows. You're not afraid to ask for something because you don't know the person's name. You've never spoken to them before. And that kind of empowered energy translates and stays with you when you go out onto the dining room floor and actually approach your tables. They will maybe subconsciously notice that you're feeling empowered, and it's going to shed off on them. They're going to feel more empowered. They're going to feel more empowered to tip you more. The other thing is your coworkers. You're going to have a bad day at the restaurant, and having a good rapport with your coworkers is going to help you out. They're going to pick you up, make you feel better, make you laugh, and you're going to do the same thing for them. So the first step to making more money before you even greet your first table is introduce yourself to absolutely everybody that works in your restaurant with you. The next thing, tip number 2, be prepared. So it's not always possible to show up early, but if you can show up 10 minutes or so early, that's going to go a long way for you. It just gives you that extra time to get oriented with the space. Maybe you even get that 1 or 2 extra tables that you wouldn't have gotten in if you had walked through the door 5 minutes later because somebody else was there before you and they would have gotten them. Those 2 extra tables, 1 or 2 tables, could be worth $20, $30, $50, who knows. Next, you want to be clean. So you want to have a clean shirt on. If you only have one, uniform shirt from your restaurant, maybe it'd be a good idea to get a backup. Even if you have to pay for it, it's worth it to be clean and to smell good. You want to have clean pants on or whatever, clean shoes. You want to have clean hands. Make sure if you're wearing nail polish, it's not like chipping and flaking all over the place. The next way you want to be prepared is to have, if you're using a server book, make sure you have plenty of paper, plenty of pens. Maybe make sure the printer at your computer has paper so you don't go to print a bill and then you got to run around and find the printer paper, figure out how to do it. And if you don't know how to replace printer paper, it could not be easier. So have somebody show you how to do that, or at least look into it yourself. There's usually a picture right when you open the little printer that shows you how, know where the paper is stored. Oh, have a bank. So normally, if you're not a bartender, you are carrying your own cash bank on you so that you can make change if somebody pays with cash. And having your own bank just saves you time. You don't have to wait for the bartender to open the cash register. You don't have to annoy the bartender by needing this. It just makes you more prepared and more professional. Depending on like where you work or how big your bills are, I usually like to carry like around $60, a couple 20s, 10s, 5s, some 1s, enough to basically break a 100. Okay, so you want to have paper, pens, and a bank. I don't know if you're doing like an apron or a server book, but those are things you're going to want to have too. You're going to want to walk in and just check your section or figure out how you guys are taking tables that night. Maybe it's not a super busy night. Maybe you're just going to alternate with 1 or 2 other servers, or maybe you have a section. Find that out so that you know what to look, you know when you're getting tables. If you have a section, even if you don't have a section, go around the restaurant, make sure there's nothing huge or gross on the floor that needs to be swept up. Make sure all the tables in your section are clean. They have silverware on them. They have, their little sugar caddy or whatever, a drink menu, whatever is normally on your table. Just make sure your section has all of that. And if you have time, glance around at all the other tables too, the other servers sections, and just make sure that they have everything that they need to. If your restaurant does specials every night, you're going to want to know what they are. So if you have like a specials board or somewhere where there's information, you're going to want to check that first. Read through the specials, write down the price, write down the serving size. If it's like a 6-ounce filet or whatever, you're going to want to know how big it is. Know how it's cooked. Know as much about it as you can as possible. The better that you describe, and this is an upselling technique, which I'll talk about more later, the better that you can describe the food, the more likely it is to be purchased by a customer. So if a customer can picture exactly what you're saying and it sounds and you're describing it in an amazing way, they're more likely to be like, I need to have that, give that to me. And usually the specials are priced higher than anything on your other menu. So that's, you're just gonna wanna know. And if there's something that you don't understand about the special or how it's cooked, you need to ask the chef or ask a manager or ask another server, because if you don't understand it, chances are one of your tables isn't going to understand it and they're going to ask you, and you're going to be stuck there like a deer in headlights. So just know all the details about your specials. You're also going to want to make sure to find out whether or not your restaurant is out of anything. Are you out of wings? Are you out of buns? Are you out of a certain beer or liquor behind the bar? This is also called 86th. Sometimes people will say like, oh, we're 86th the veggie kebabs or whatever, like we sold the last one, we don't have anymore. So you're going to want to know walking into the restaurant if there are things that are already gone, and then if there's a count on anything. So sometimes there might only be like 1 or 5 or however many dishes of a certain food left. So that's something you're going to want to keep your eye on, because there's nothing worse than taking an order from a table, going to the computer to punch it in, and then realizing you don't have it, and having to go back to the table, deliver the bad news, bring them another menu, find out what else they want. It just takes too much time and it makes the customer feel uncomfortable too. So be prepared. Okay, so you're gonna introduce yourself to everybody at the restaurant and you're gonna be prepared. You're gonna wanna know the food that your restaurant serves. So when you start working, take your menu home, study it, make flashcards if that's easy for you. There are certain things that you're going to want to know, like people will say, oh, how many wings come in one order? Or what's the difference between like a large, chicken tender basket and a small chicken tender basket? So you're going to want to know, oh, the small has 5, the large has 10, whatever. Specific numbers of things. So this kind of goes along with anticipating customer questions. What are people going to ask you? If you're new at a restaurant, you can even ask one of the servers, like, what are some of the most commonly asked questions? Like at the restaurant I work at, we have all homemade sauces, and people always ask, what's in the tipsy sauce? Like, I probably answer that question 5 times a day. So it's good for me to know, sorry, I just got a text message. Good for me to know what's in the sauce. I can be able to describe it. If you don't know what something is, like a beurre blanc sauce or something like that on the menu, Google it, look it up. Don't just be like, oh, beurre blanc sauce, I wonder what that is, and keep studying your menu. Answer these questions for yourself so that when a customer asks you, you can answer it. And also just double check with your chef, because sometimes things that you research online are not made exactly the same way in your restaurant. So just make sure. You can always create a little cheat sheet if it's too much information to remember. If you have a server book, write some of this stuff down, and that way if you're at a table and they ask you, you can be like, oh crap, beurre blanc sauce. Okay, hold on one second. Instead of leaving the table to go find the answer somewhere, you can just like flip through your book, be like, oh yeah, this is what it is, and tell your customers. You're gonna want to take a special note of places on your menu where the customer needs to make a choice. So, for example, like we have chicken lettuce wraps, and they can come grilled or fried. So if people order the chicken lettuce wraps, I have to remember to ask, do you want those grilled or fried? And then they come with a choice of a side dish too. Okay, great. Do you want fries or a salad with that? Salad, what kind of dressing would you like? These are the ones that we have. They're all homemade. They're delicious. So you need to get just like there's probably only going to be a couple places in your menu that require the customer to make those decisions, but just be aware of them and know them. That way you don't go to the computer and then be like, crap, I don't know if they want it grilled or fried. Don't guess, because chances are they know in their mind what they wanted and they just forgot to tell you. It's always best to go back and check, but it's even better to know beforehand and get those answers before you leave the table. Next, you want to find places in your menu where you can upsell. So upselling is a technique used in sales where, in the restaurant industry, for example, a server will present a customer with options that they may not even have known existed. And the point is it will increase your bill, increase your sales, which increases your tips. You don't want to upsell just for the sake of upselling. You want to upsell to improve the customer experience. So keep that in mind as you are asking different kind of like upselling questions, that it's not for you. You're doing it for them, ideally. And there are tons of ways to upsell on a menu, from food to drinks to desserts. So if you want to know more about upselling, I talk about that more in other videos, so I'm not really going to cover it too much here, but you can head over to waitress101.com, or I can probably figure out how to put a link under here, so I'll do that too. So knowing the food, you want to know specific numbers of things, like how many wings come in a basket. You want to know what your specials are. You want to know if you're out of anything. You want to know how food is cooked, if it's kind of like a special dish. You want to know specifics about things like sauce, like a beurre blanc sauce. Know when a customer needs to make a decision, and find out places in your menu where you can upsell. You also want to know right off the bat if you have any vegetarian or gluten-free options. It's hard enough for people with dietary restrictions to eat out, so they're going to be so grateful that you've already taken the time to look through your menu and figure out what's available to them, rather than, if they're like, do you have anything that's gluten-free, for you to be like, gluten-free? Like, I don't really know what that is. Like, as trendy as it may be or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you want to make more money as a server, you need to make your customers feel welcome and comfortable. And one way to do that is to be prepared for them. Find out what they can eat. Find out what you have that's vegetarian or can be made vegetarian, and find out what you have that's gluten-free that can be made gluten-free. If you need help, ask your cooks, ask another server, use Google. Just figure it out. You're going to want to know the kids menu. Like, does the kids burger come with cheese automatically, or do you have to ask for it? Things like that. Know the beverages that your restaurant has. Do you have Coke or Pepsi products? Do you have lemonade, iced tea? Is it homemade? What brand is it? Do you have hot tea? What flavors of hot tea do you have? No, don't forget about the beverages, basically. There's basically a beverage menu. And if it's easier to make a little cheat sheet to keep in your book, do that. Have a few recommendations in mind. So recommending food can be a little bit tricky because you have to recommend what the people like. So you could say something like, oh, if you're in the mood for something savory and kind of light, I would go with the wrap because the beer braised onions in there just add so much depth and flavor. Hey, and it goes great with our IPA. Do a little pairing in there while you're at it. Some people really love the dining experience and they want a server to give them that information. They kind of want to be served, so to say. So it works for you to have some of these things in mind. The best way to learn the food on your menu is to do an expo shift, 1 or 2 or 3. So that way you're standing in the window and you are, as the food's coming out, you're seeing all the time, like, oh, this comes with that comes with this automatically comes with a side of that, this sandwich has pickles on it, this sandwich doesn't. When you're expoing, have a menu right there by you that you can glance at. So that's the best way to learn the food, I think. And you also learn the tables if you're going to be running the food too. The next best way is to taste the food. If your restaurant does like a shift meal or whatever, or you get a discount, take advantage of that and try the things on your menu. Don't just eat the same thing every time. Like, take advantage of that discount and actually taste the food that you have on your menu. So, introduce yourself, be prepared, know the menu, the food menu. You're also going to want to know the alcohol menu. That's number 4. We kind of covered this briefly, but does your restaurant have wine and beer? If so, what kinds? Write this down. Have this in your book. What kind of tap beer? Can you describe the beers at all? Have your bartender give you like a little sip of each beer if you're over 21. Otherwise, you can also go online. Each brewery has like a profile for each beer online. You can just look that stuff up online and print it out. And they'll usually even include what to pair it with. So it gives you more knowledge, and more knowledge is more power. So know your alcohol menu. Does your restaurant do a happy hour? What are the details of that? How do you ring in a happy hour drink differently from a regular drink? It helps to know common drinks that are ordered. If you're like brand new to serving and you really don't know anything about alcohol, you need to know what somebody means when they want like a Crown and Coke or Captain and Coke or Jack and Coke. What are those? What are those things? For most restaurant menus, you need to know what type of alcohol it is before you can even like find it in the menu. So the alcohol menu will usually be split up by like vodka, gin, whiskey, rum. So if somebody orders Captain, you don't want to be like searching through all the different menus. You want to just know that it's a rum, click on rum, find Captain right there, put it with Coke, and send it through. So just having kind of like basic understanding of what's what in the alcohol realm and what some common drinks are, like what's a bulldog? How would you ring in a Long Island iced tea? Being prepared ahead of time and knowing these things just saves you time when it's super busy, and it keeps you from getting stressed out because, again, you're empowered. You have this information, you're ready to do this. And again, I have other videos that talk about alcohol if you want to see them, waitress101.com, and I'll also try to put a link underneath. The 5th way that you can be prepared to make more money waitressing before you even greet your first table is check your attitude. Unfortunately, waitressing tends to come with a lot of sort of like negative attitude, catty attitude, gossiping, and this is like a real shame, I think, in this food industry, because that just brings you down. Complaining about customers, complaining about other servers that you work with, gossiping about people, like, nobody needs that crap. It's just negative. And honestly, to be like really negative in a negative conversation in one with like your coworkers, and then to go to a table and pretend to be like, hi, I love my job, like what do you need today? It's not going to translate. Subconsciously, your tables are going to feel that tension, and you're not going to get the best out of your time at a restaurant if that's how you want to act. So my recommendation would be to try to avoid gossip at all costs. I know it can be hard not to get sucked in. It's like okay to laugh once in a while, about something really funny that happens or whatever, but don't tear down your other coworkers. Don't worry about what other people are doing or aren't doing, what's fair, what's not fair. Those people they're going to be self-weeded out. It doesn't matter. Focus on yourself, do your best job, empower yourself, empower your other coworkers to be positive and do their best job. And you're going to see a tenfold return on that attitude than you would if you were standing around just complaining and being negative and being gossipy. It's no good. So focus on yourself and try to practice gratitude when you can. Be grateful that you have a job. Grateful that you have customers that are coming into this restaurant who can afford to tip you. Grateful for the opportunity to work. Grateful to be able-bodied. Grateful to be knowledgeable. Be grateful that it's a nice day, whatever. Even if you're working, just try to be grateful. Again, that type of attitude only empowers you, which will help you make more money in the long run. So that's it. My 5 tips. Introduce yourself, be prepared, know the food, know the alcohol, and check your attitude. I have a lot more to share. If anybody wants to learn more about waitressing and making more money, boosting your tip percentage, just check out waitress101.com. I'm Anna, and I can't wait to see you there. Bye. I'm creating a whole library of resources, so leave a comment below to let me know what is challenging you as a server, and I look forward to connecting and seeing if I can help you out.